you know what the poverty rate is in our country?
I believe that the poverty level is a fixed number.
No, do you know the poverty rate in this country?
I believe it is in the teens.
So all of your testimony is always about the tax cuts and cutting costs, and it's always about tax cuts, and it's always about the rich. But nothing is ever said about poor, other than you suggesting that you worked yourself
No,
through
ma'am.
college.
No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime.
Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia asked Secretary Bessent directly to his face if he knows the poverty rate in the United States. Bessent fumbled and did not answer the question directly.
I want to start first by just clarifying your testimony and its delivery. Why did you ask for your witness statement to be embargoed until this morning?
Sorry, me? Pardon me?
Your testimony reads right at the very top, embargoed until delivery, which means that we didn't follow the usual practice of this committee of getting the testimony 24 hours in advance so that committee members can review it and prepare for questions. Yours was posted at 10:01. The committee was at 10. Well, it looks like you need.
My staff is just telling me that it's standard practice.
It's your standard practice? It's not our standard practice as a committee.
I'm told that it was standard practice.
Okay, you were told by whom, sir?
So my comms team and legislative affairs team working with the committee.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think for the record, I think you should clarify to the gentleman that that is not our standard. And I know that at least I didn't know anything about this until I got it here. And I don't think our committee staff on the Democratic side was notified that we would be getting all your testimony late. I just wondered, why you had made that request, and clearly at the top, embargoed until delivery.
Well, embargo to delivery, I think that was mostly meant for the press.
We're not press, sir. We're the members of Congress that have oversight. So, Mr. Chairman, I would hope that you not condone this kind of late submission. It just doesn't help, frankly, for some of the atmosphere that's created when we all just sit down and we still don't have your testimony. Well, then, we just sort of don't feel really good about that. It's not our custom and
Congresswoman,
practice.
I appreciate the importance that you put on my statement.
Well, thank you. Notice it's important, sir. Do you know what the poverty rate is in our country?
I believe that the poverty level is a fixed number.
No, do you know the poverty rate in this country?
I believe it is in the teens.
In the teens, okay. Well, it's about a little over 11%. It just strikes me that most of all your testimony is always about the tax cuts and cutting costs, and it's always about tax cuts, and it's always about the rich. But nothing is ever said about poor, other than you suggesting that you worked yourself
No, ma'am.
college.
No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. and
Sir, I read your testimony. That's not anywhere in here.
Deductibility.
That is not in here, sir.
Deductibility
I am
of
referring
auto
to your
loans.
testimony and what I've listened to. I said right up front, I can see you and I can hear you. You've not said one thing about what we're doing to help the poor. In fact,
none of your colleagues
even when we
asked
were
me.
talking, even when we were talking about the car seats, that impacts poor people more than anyone else, because not only can they usually not even afford a car seat and have to go to a garage sale to find one, now it's going to be even higher. Your president is suggesting that he wants to give a $5,000 bonus to women to have babies, and then what? Just leave them out on the cold alone? No car seat, no food, no Medicaid, no chip
Congresswoman,
program?
I can tell you the worst.
And I'm asking you right now, sir.
The
that
worst thing
you-
for
you
working
need- you
families
need to-
will be
as a
the
treasurer-
expiration of the 2017
As Secretary of Treasury,
Tax
it's not
Cuts and
just
Job
about
Act.
the inflation rate. It's not just about the GDP. It's also about making sure that we keep the poverty rate in this country low. There are people who are living in poverty that never have lived in poverty before. You also failed to say here, you say unemployment remains low. I mean, the Senate should have read unemployment went up.
Ma'am,
Because it did.
Under the Biden administration,
And the growth
we
administration, we're not talking
experienced
about Biden, sir. We're
record
talking
food bank
about your
usage.
testimony here
Record food
today
bank usage.
about the current president and his plans. Because I can tell you, I'm from Houston. I'm concerned too about some of the tariffs on energy. You know, we have done a lot to increase trade in Houston, construction, everything after the pandemic, and all things were growing. Everything has been growing. But now that the Trump tariffs have surfaced, it is threatening Houston's economy. I represent the area where almost the entire ship channel is in. The petrochemical companies all are in my district. The port is in my district. Everybody is trying to figure out what the hell we're going to do.
This is more than a sharp exchange. It was a lesson in priorities, process, and what leadership looks like when people's livelihoods are on the line. Sylvia Garcia didn't start by grandstanding. She began with something procedural the public rarely sees but that really matters. Why was the Treasury's testimony embargoed until delivery and posted literally as the hearing began? That's not trivia. Committees rely on having written testimony in hand so members can read, verify, and prepare focused, evidence-based follow-ups. When testimony arrives late, it strips members of the basic tools of oversight and advantages the witness. You get less time to dig into specifics, fewer prepared questions, and a weaker public record. Oversight becomes theater instead of investigation. That matters because transparency is how we keep power accountable. From there, Garcia pivoted to substance, and she landed on the right, hard question. Do you know the poverty rate in this country? The exchange made plain what the summary numbers hide. A poverty rate of roughly 11% is not a sterile statistic. It represents millions of people who are one illness, one missed paycheck, one expired benefit away from real harm. And Garcia's frustration came from watching policy conversations obsess over tax mechanics and headline giveaways while too little attention is paid to how ordinary families get by. Whether they can afford car seats, nutrition, Medicaid, or the basics after childbirth. That contrast, tax-focused proposals versus day-to-day survival, is the moral and economic fault line of this debate. You can structure a budget to reward the wealthy with tax cuts that look attractive on a scorecard, or you can structure a budget to stabilize families, lower long-term public costs, and grow the economy from the middle out. Policies that strengthen the safety net, affordable health coverage, stable nutrition assistance, refundable child tax credits, paid family leave, accessible childcare, and investments in clean energy and local job creation are not just compassion. They're investments that reduce emergency spending later, increase workforce participation, and build resilient communities. Think about Garcia's concrete example. Higher prices and limited access make a simple safety item like a car seat a harder choice for struggling parents. A one-time baby bonus is a talking point. Sustained access to healthcare, childcare, and nutrition is what changes outcomes. When testimony ignores those trade-offs, when a plan focuses on headline tax cuts but fails to show how it prevents families from falling into poverty, lawmakers are being asked to accept optics over outcomes. There's also a systemic problem Garcia pointed to. If the conversation about fiscal health centers on counting cuts to domestic discretionary spending, which is a relatively small slice of the federal budget, while tax policy hands outsized benefits to the top, you end up with a distributional decision disguised as budget discipline. That's not neutral math. That's a choice about who pays and who benefits. And when that choice is made without full transparency or time for proper oversight, it's harder for the public to judge whether the trade-offs are fair or responsible. Procedurally, the episode teaches another civic lesson. Oversight only works when both sides play by the same rules. Written testimony 24 hours in advance is not bureaucracy for its own sake. It's a safeguard. It gives every member, regardless of resources, a shot at meaningful questions. When those safeguards are bypassed, the powerful get the advantage, and the public gets less truth. So what should viewers learn and what can they do? First, demand specifics. When an administration or department proposes budget changes, ask for distributional analyses. Who gains, who loses, and by how much? Ask what happens to poverty, healthcare access, and nutrition programs in the models. Second, insist on process. Committees should get testimony with enough time to vet it, and documents should be posted for public review. Third, support policies that stabilize families, not just one-off bonuses, because long-term economic security benefits everyone. Finally, use your voice. Contact your representative and ask how their office is protecting SNAP, Medicaid, child supports, and investments in local economies. Share these moments with friends so civic pressure matches the urgency of the policies being debated. This clip is a microcosm of a bigger question. Do we measure success by who gets another tax cut, or by whether fewer children go to bed hungry and more parents can afford care? Sylvia Garcia's frustration is the voice of millions who want answerable, humane policy that reflects what actually keeps people safe and healthy. If you care about that, don't let these moments pass as viral drama. Turn them into accountability. Call your lawmakers. Demand the data. Support the programs that make a measurable difference. Vote for leaders who will put people first.